The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I am so excited for this interview with Michelle Masters. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
Yeah, we were just saying Michelle usually has these really amazing backgrounds, but not today. But that's all right. We don't need an amazing background because you're just an amazing person. I'm excited. I've always wanted to interview you, and I don't know why I haven't done it before. So Michelle is someone who I would call a teacher of mine. I've taken, I don't even know how many of your classes by now. I've worked with you a lot. I've had clients work with you. I've sent you people. And yeah, I'm one of those kind of, there's like a loyal following, I think, because I've seen a lot of the same people in the same programs. And yeah, we'll probably just sign up to everything you do. So I'm really excited. But so yeah, Michelle's, what do you call yourself now? I mean, I know you're, an NLP, I would say in the guru category of the NLP world, but.
I mostly call myself a speaker and a personal development trainer. I do run transformational workshops is what I usually tell people. And
okay.
Yeah.
But like, you're not leaning into the NLP type title. Because it's beyond that.
I use it a lot. It's fantastic stuff. The problem is most people haven't heard of it, and the ones who have probably encountered like the not so good kind.
Yeah.
So I do what PBS did, because I once watched a special on PBS, and they said these are neuroscience techniques, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. It was pure NLP. So I thought if PBS can do it, so can I. So I just call it neuroscience techniques.
Neuroscience techniques. I like it. I know. Because now that I've been trained in NLP at the same place where I guess you technically train.
NLP Marin?
Yeah.
I didn't just train there. I was a teacher there for 25 years.
Yeah. But it is true. I kind of hesitate to talk about NLP because it has, I don't know where it got that bad rap, but along the way. Well, I know that one guy that wrote that one book that.
No, it was a couple. It was a couple of guys, and one of whom, well, let's just say he was tried for murder and probably did it.
Oh my God!
But brilliant. Here's the thing, like, came up with brilliant stuff, and a case could be made for sociopath, but came up with brilliant stuff. So, like, without those tools that he came up with, there's so many people that I wouldn't have been able to help. Yeah. So it's a weird kind of thing, but there was a certain amount of ego and a certain amount of let me show you what I can do to you or to others in the beginning. And they sort of gave psychology the finger, and then psychology returned the favor. So... but it has snuck in. There's all this stuff that's NLP that I've been teaching and doing for 30 years that now has branding, and like EMDR came from NLP, brain spotting came from NLP, internal family systems came from NLP. And somebody came to one of my workshops and she said, I'm disturbed that you're not licensed in these, but you're teaching. I'm like, I was teaching them long before these were, kind of codified down into these procedures. Yeah.
That's kind of the way of the world. But,
but at least the tools are getting used.
Yeah, I know. And I didn't know IFS stemmed. I mean, I know there's a lot of crossover, but I didn't realize that it stemmed out of NLP, the kind of parts work.
Well, they may have had a similar origin, but yeah, we were doing parts work long before IFS came along.
Wow.
Yeah.
Richard Schwartz did a good job, huh? Well, anyways, let's hear about your background. I know you were a trainer at NLP Marin. You've been a practitioner, speaker, but how did you get onto this path? Were you working at some boring corporate job that you hated and decided to make a career turn? Yeah.
No, I did a bunch of stuff. Well, I think I started learning at 32 years old. And I think before then I was just too young to be any kind of coach or help. I was just, physically and emotionally not mature enough. So I think I found it about as soon as I can. But in the interim, I did a bunch of stuff. I wandered around. I painted houses in Maine. I painted scenery off Broadway. I, coached volleyball. I did data entry. I watered plants in Manhattan office buildings. Did faux painting for wineries. But I was looking for something that really had meaning. I was a manager for Mrs. Fields Cookies for a while. Cookies, great cookies. Terrible job. And so my grandmother died and left me a little bit of money, and I tried to take a few years off to figure out what I really wanted to do. And then the money had just about run out. It had run out, and this woman put a flyer in my hand that said it was a free seminar for NLP, and so I'll learn anything for free. So I went within half an hour. I'm like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. Because in college, I had briefly considered being a therapist, but the idea of just having to listen to how bad things were and not really be able to change it was way too much like my growing up. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But in the free seminar, even just the little parlor tricks they were doing, that we were testing out on ourselves, I could feel things actually shift. Like I did 4 years of therapy with an absolute saint. Loved her. She was so helpful in so many ways, but the patterns didn't change. And so just doing these little things, I could feel the patterns change and shift. Like it was different. And I thought, well, if they can do that in like 15 minutes, like what can it really do? So I didn't have the money, but I figured there's got to be a way. And of course, there's always a way. So here we are. Yeah. And I hadn't even finished my training when they had me start assisting in their next training. And then I was on staff very shortly after that, and a trainer within a year or two, co-trainer.
Wow.
Or assistant trainer, yeah.
Wow. And then who are you able to name? Like, were you training under the original founders and then?
No, I was training under Carl Buchheit and his teacher, Jonathan Rice, who did learn from the originals. And Jonathan's wife, Andrea. Jonathan and Andrea were both either psychiatrists or psychologists. I think he was a psychiatrist. I can't remember if she was a they were both licensed therapists. And so, which was really helpful because they had both worlds, the psychological depth of understanding and the tools that would actually transform stuff. And then Carl was not a therapist, but learned from them and is just a genius. And so I had excellent teachers.
Carl's great. He's a lot of fun. Yeah. And then, so then tell me what happened next. You just went out and, I know you were training, but then you were also building your own practice. Yes. Right.
Most of which came originally from students, and I was also networking, and, I gave away some sessions, and I got really good word of mouth because I was never good at marketing. I may have just made the first good marketing decision this week that I've ever made. But despite my utter lack of any kind of marketing acumen, I got invited to teach all over the world. I had really good word of mouth.
Wow.
So in 2006, the executive director at the time of the place where I was teaching, she asked me if I would be willing to create a 2-day workshop on money. It was a little like asking Vladimir Putin to put together something on nonviolent communication. Like, it wasn't a kind of like, oh yeah, Michelle, money, that makes sense. But I was so excited to be offered a workshop. I'm like, yeah, sign me up. Put me in, coach. Put me in. And then I realized what I'd done. I'm like, oh my God, I got to learn about money. Because I had zero relationship or interest in money. And I realized, well, I'm never going to learn enough to be useful. And if I do, I'll just be repeating other people's stuff. So I thought, I'll just do the stuff I know how to do, which is to change stuff and apply it all to money, and we'll see what happens. And so what happened was it ended up taking me all over the world. And so I'm known as the money person quite often, even though these tools can be used for anything, like relationship, health, whatever. But because of the workshop, which then became a book and which is about to be republished by Sounds True, like I got known as the money person.
Yes, Money Magic, which I've taken I don't know how many times and have the book. That's really interesting. I never knew that. I thought you just created it because, I don't know, lots of people come with money questions, or I'm curious, did you have to go through your own process of change work with money in order to get Money Magic to where?
Yeah. Well, I thought as I was designing the workshop, I thought I'll try this all out on me. I spent a summer writing the class basically and picking out the pieces of the techniques that I thought could be applied to a whole group at once. And so I tried everything out on me to make sure it wouldn't result in, unsightly rashes or spontaneous combustion, anything. And I discovered I had some very unuseful beliefs in relationship to money. And so, and then I did the workshop. And a year later, they wanted me to do it again. And I thought back and I thought, you know what? It feels like I've made more money. And I went back and looked, and my income was up 67% across the board. And so
you didn't even notice.
I didn't really. Well, and that's the same thing people who take the workshop often tell me. They didn't realize their income had tripled or more until they did their taxes, because it didn't feel like they were doing anything differently. They were just making more money.
Wow. So, yeah. I have to say, the last time I took your Money Magic, I think it was last year, right? I think it was last fall, maybe. I knew I was really busy with a lot of things, and I was like, oh, I know I'm probably not going to be full on in it. But I knew to be in it. And it was the weirdest thing. It was like the same magical things happen. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm not even, I came to some of the calls. I didn't go to all of them. I didn't actually do a lot of the exercises. And I was like, okay, there's something with just the field itself, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I've noticed this with other things too.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to the disbelievers out there?
Yeah, that is tricky. Because, I talk more about the neuroscience because that goes down easier for most people. And then I talk some about the family constellation stuff because most people can get that. I talk less about the quantum stuff, but I love the quantum stuff. Like
we're on a plant medicine podcast here. They know
that. Yeah. So I went on. In 2000. So I started Money Magic 2006, 2008. I went to a Matrix Energetics with Melissa Joy and the now late Richard Bartlett. He died recently, so I'm sure he's feeling better. But it was a quantum ways of working. And which I really liked. So I added that into my repertoire and into the field of the class. And when I did that, people started getting changes before the workshop. Like they'd register and get a big raise or promotion or unexpected windfall of money. Like whenever I start that class, I do a poll. I say, how many of you got unexpected money since you registered? And it's usually about a third to a half. Yeah.
I always tell clients or people in general, like when you invest in these programs, like, always make it your first goal to just make your investment back. And that's like, you could do that easily in just like the magical instant. It's really interesting, especially because I've been wanting to train in NLP since I think it was 2017 when I first started hearing about it. And then I started doing sessions and just never really put aside the time. And then I dove in. It's been like 15 months straight of it. And it's great. But yeah, it's even for me now, it's still hard to explain. The one thing I really got out of it, though, is understanding what I've been doing with my clients all these years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a big piece of it. It was like, because I knew some, I knew some of the techniques just from a previous coach that taught some of it. I knew little bits. But then the energetic piece of it, the quantum piece of it, I was like, oh yeah, that explains why I've witnessed miracles happening with clients for years, where sometimes I get clients that don't do anything, but somehow when they're held in this container I'm holding, and not saying it's me, because I don't believe it is, it's something bigger than that. But yeah, how do you explain this work you're doing with money magic, or, the work that you've done with clients, how do you explain it in just like a nutshell to someone?
What I mostly say is all the stuff that's consciously you could change that's been in your way, whether it's money or anything, you've already changed. So the stuff that's left is not conscious. And most people are trying to address subconscious stuff through conscious methods. There's this there's a brand of stories called Nasrudin stories. I think it's in the Islamic tradition. They're like teaching stories. And one story, Nasrudin is either wise or a fool, but they're teaching stories. And so, like, a neighbor comes home one day and sees Nasrudin out looking around in his grass. And he says, "What happened?" And he said, "Oh, I lost my keys." And the neighbor said, "Did you drop them there?" And Nasrudin said, "No, I dropped them over there, but the light's better here." And so this is what most people do, rather than actually addressing, because they don't know how to address the subconscious or even access it. They're looking for keys in the wrong place. Like the keys are actually over there. The light's not as good there. But so this work is about accessing those keys and changing the stuff that's actually in our way. And then everything just seems to work. Because it's like, that stuff's automatic. We don't try to get those blocks to run. They run automatically. So when you revise them to something that works, then that runs automatically. It's just so much more efficient.
So beautiful. I'll never forget, because I think it was in a session a long time ago that you said to me, and I do believe it, and I've heard other people say similar, where, if your heart desires something and you don't have it, that means there is a block in the unconscious or something in the way. But then, there's people throwing around the word blocks, maybe not even truly understanding what it is. Then there's a whole other set of people that don't believe in any of this. Mm-hmm. It's like life, the whole idea that life is created by us, or that this experience of what we call reality is created. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, maybe they just go through the motions and just become a victim of life. I don't know, because I've just never lived like that. But yeah, what do you say to people that have these kind of or even how do you address these unconscious blocks? Like, what is going on? Like, is it always something in the family system? Is it something from our upbringing? Like, what have you found that's like the problem usually?
Yeah, there's three big categories. One is just subconscious beliefs about money. You have to work hard to make money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Or, early bird gets the worm. Like all these kind of just, even in an address, President Obama once said, this is the place where if you come here and you work hard, it's like there's this huge belief about you have to work hard, which is so not true. It's a lie, and it's a destructive lie, but it's a lie that we kind of, it's not just Americans. Americans have bought into it pretty heavy duty. So has a lot of Asia. The French are a little less on the hard work thing. And so they don't have to, right? So there's beliefs about work, and then there's beliefs about ourselves, about our worth, what we deserve. And that's one of the things that affects everything in your life, your relationships, your health, your money. So every workshop I do, no matter the context, I always have a piece in around worth, because almost none of us really experience our true worth.
Why is that? What's going on there? Like, is it just deep trauma in the human condition?
Well, here's part of the problem is our beliefs about worth are in place by age 3. Mm. So there's no logical brain that's running at that point that can accurately assess ourselves. Mm. So if there is any pain anywhere in the family, including previous generations, kids that young can't separate themselves from other people's experience. So kids always take the blame. So if the family was struggling on some level, it must be me. I must be too much. Mm-hmm. The other way, and sometimes kids grow up in families where they are literally told you're not worth much. But even in families where parents really try to be affirming to their children, if the parents don't have a sense of worth, they can't actually communicate it to their kids, because kids, those of you who have kids probably notice, they're not really paying attention to what you say, but they pay attention to how you feel. Kids live in their parents' emotional field. And so if a parent doesn't feel worthy, first off, they don't know how to really communicate true worth. And secondly, the kids won't hold themselves as worthy either if their parents are. I mean, their parents are godlike beings. They can do things kids can't. If those people aren't worthy, I must not be enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just seems like a cycle that just will keep going and going and going and going. And I'm curious, like, even the change piece, sometimes which of course I'm still working on that, because that's always seems like the more complicated part of it. But, years of practice, I'm sure I'll get better. But how does something so easily change in these NLP sessions? I mean, I've given sessions to clients with you. I've seen what I would call miracles happen. I've seen my entire life transform with this modality. I think it's one of the best modalities out there, by the way, especially for psychedelic integration. But
Good
yeah.
to know.
Well, for anything, but for people who are like, what should I do? And well, it's like, what's going on? But how do you explain even like the change, because it seems so simple that we can change our entire perception of our reality or of our experience in just like an instant.
Yeah. Well, you have to know how to do it, because most people try to change it consciously. They'll say like, okay, I'm going to decide to believe this. And nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't change the patterning that's running, because the patterning that has our old beliefs, the ones that are stuck, it is a separate part of the brain that those are stored in. It's not in the conscious mind. It's literally a different area of the brain. So up here is the part that decides I want something different, I want to change. And I saw a workshop facilitator once have people write out their limiting beliefs. Okay. Crumple them up, throw them away. And then, so now what would you like to believe? Now, imagine if your brakes were out in your car and you just wrote down, my brakes are out. Okay, I'm going to crumple that up, throw them away. My brakes should be fine. Like, no, somebody's got to go in there and fix your brakes. And so if there is that stuff running, you need to access the part of the brain where that stuff is stored. And that's what the NLP tools are pretty good for, is getting you access, because it's not only stored there, it's designed to resist change and kind of password protected. That's why change has been so hard. But if you know how to get in there, if you know how to access that part of the brain for people, then when you change it there, it's different. It's like rewriting software. You got to know the language the software is written in, and you got to know where the code is stored. If you can access where the code is stored, you know how to rewrite it, then it just runs differently. So the belief stuff is like that. Now, beliefs about ourselves can be kind of complicated. Like, you don't want to change somebody's sense of who they are all at once. That's too much. Yeah, people end up in lockdown.
People tried that? Yeah, people tried that.
People end up in like lockdown facilities because they don't have a way of knowing who they are. So you want to change some beliefs. You want to change in layers over time, right? So I would go on I do a lot of interviews, and I will often get asked this question, and it's so well-meaning. The facilitator will always say, what are 3 things that our viewers or listeners can do to shift their mindset? And what they're asking for is conscious tools, right? And so I sound like kind of a jerk when I'm like, look, I can't give you conscious tools that's going to change subconscious stuff. If I could, everybody would be changing instantly all the time anyway. And so then I'll start to say, about my book, because I did write it for people who will never get a session. You don't make much money off books, unless you sell millions of copies. But it was sort of like for people who will never make it. And I can see people think, oh, she's just here to promote her book. I'm like, this is the only way I know how to answer your question. Somebody's got to access, whether it's you doing this procedure or me or some other practitioner, someone has to access the place where the patterning is stored to be able to change it. And trying to do it yourself is like trying to do brain surgery on yourself in the backyard with, brain surgery for dummies. Like, that's not going to go well.
I'm curious, and thank you for sharing this. Where does the role of the body and the nervous system come in?
Well, so your most of your beliefs about money, beliefs about yourself, they are stabilized by your neurology in your neural nets. And most of that is in place between age 3 to 6. So your core beliefs about the world, how the world operates, who you are, what you deserve, those are all in place, most by 3, pretty much all of them by 6. And they are held in neural nets, especially in the older parts of the brain. And they're automated at that point. They're what's called bridged neural pathways, which means they take no effort. Like, if you've done something enough times, you don't have to think about it. Those are those. And so those blocks are now, you don't have to think about it. Not everything there is bad. Like all the things we can, walking, talking, controlling your bladder, driving a car, like there's all kinds of learnings we have that are automated that are fine. But some of them are, you're not enough. You can't, it's selfish to want things for yourself, you can't ask for what you want. Fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. So those are actually held in neural nets. And though the brain does a big pruning at about 3 years old, gets rid of 2/3 of the neural nets. It still leaves an almost infinite amount of neurons to recombine, but it keeps the ones that are in use. So if somebody has a really painful, traumatic childhood, it's going to keep the neural nets that are meant to deal with trauma. And it will filter all of reality through that, so as to keep you from not dying over and over and over again. And what it does is ends up replaying the patterns so that we can survive them over and over again, which is exhausting. Yeah.
Do you think, is every pattern, does it all lead back to either survival, as in like not dying, or belonging?
Belonging and love.
And love.
I would say, yeah.
So like those 3, really.
Yeah, belonging and love are kind of both those family loyalty thing of, those are the hardest to shift, is the ones that are sourced out of the desire to be like your family, belong to your family, or try and heal your family. Those are the most those are the most destructive and the hardest to shift.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's where constellation. So yeah, I'm curious because it's funny. I was actually at a family constellation last night that was really powerful. Some friends of mine facilitate it once a month around where I live. And it was it's so incredible to watch this work. And I'm like, oh, how does this, it reminds me so much of what I've learned in the NLP and what has been integrated in. But so you were saying IFS came out of NLP. Can you tell a little bit about that? Like how this kind of IFS and constellation work and these kind of different...
Yeah, constellation work is a little different from IFS.
Yeah,
IFS is parts. But so the founders of NLP, what they were really good at, because none of this was based on theory, they were really good at noticing people who were really good at stuff, and they would model out and see if they could figure out because they'd notice like 50 people would go through a training for therapists. They didn't all have the same skill with clients. So they were curious about the people who were doing a really better job than everybody else. What was it they were doing without even realizing it that was making the difference? So they were really good at testing and, failure, trial, error, until they could winnow it down to where they could repeat the results that whoever this really talented person was. And so basically they stole from the best. And so in 1996, we started hearing about this guy, Bert Hellinger, who was doing this constellation work. And he got everybody's attention because he was getting changes we didn't know how to get. And the places where our clients would get stuck were right up this territory. So my teacher and I took every time he came to the Bay Area, I went to his workshops, I watched his videos, I read his books, and then I started doing them. And it's in a real art form to do constellation work. It's a very different skill set, but at a certain point it clicked in. And so that hugely expanded the range of people I was able to get changes for. And in addition to doing it in a full-blown constellation format, I can incorporate it into the sessions. Or I'm doing this workshop in Paris in the end of October called the Paris Heart Reset. And it's a lot of constellation work about clearing up the blocks, the fears about being seen, the fears about it being safe to connect, but also clearing out all the family and ancestral blocks to connection, to being seen, to feeling worthy. So being able to have that tool set lets you move mountains that traditional therapy and even traditional NLP can't always touch, because it's not, that part is not sourced out of survival fear. It's sourced out of love and belonging and a desire to heal the family. Because as far as I can tell, there's never been a child born in the history of humanity who did not want to heal their family. There's certainly never been one born in the history of humanity who has pulled it off.
It's like a famous Michelle Masters quote.
Yeah.
Very good.
Everybody tries and everybody fails, and they fail in predictable ways. And so, so having the combination of those tools plus some quantum fun woo-wooery, has been a really good, fun ride.
Oh my God. Amazing. I'm curious when I hear all this, and, I've done enough of this work to go into these depths of the suffering obligations of love. What do you believe? Like, what is this? What went wrong along the way? And maybe there's no such thing as wrong, right? Everything is okay as it is. But is it just the collective, the human experience of being in duality and separation from a greater source of all? Is it the trauma of being born at this time and, this time in what we call linear time? Is it just, centuries and centuries of the way the world has worked? Like, what do you think? Like, have you ever wondered this? I'm sure you have, but like, why aren't we all just like clear channels for everything we want to come through us? Like, why is there this, these obligations, this suffering, this, the fear of, like the not conscious fear of, it's like the fear of being here in general, right? Mm-hmm. Or like the drive to not die or the drive to belong. Like, why isn't this just naturally inherent? Like, we're born and we're happy to be on Earth and everything's going well. Although that'd be boring, I guess, right?
Well, there are places in the multiverse where you can have that experience. Oh, yeah. This is not one of them.
Definitely done that.
Yeah. So I don't know. You'd really have to talk to the original source code. There is a lot of learning that's available here. Like, one of the analogies that I use is, because when you're in the place where everything is love and light, you don't learn how to love stronger, if that makes sense. So the analogy I often use is if you decide to take up weight training, but you're living in the International Space Station, you're not going to build any muscles, right? There's zero gravity. So, but if you're here where there's gravity, then you're going to build muscles. So if you want people to build muscles on how to learn to love, you have to put them in an environment where it's not and where it's challenging to reach for. And if they can learn to reach under those conditions, then their ability to love is huge, much huger than it would have been if they'd just been in all love all the time.
Wow.
So that would be my best guess.
Wow. Yeah, which it makes it a beautiful experience, right?
And it's part of what you come to Earth, you play by Earth rules. And so when you come to Earth, you agree to forget most of your connection to everything else, including people. And you experience what feels like isolation and disconnection. So yeah, it's finding your way back to connecting to first you and the all that is, and then others, is quite a journey.
Yeah. Wow. I'm wondering, like, do you ever think about or I'm curious because you've been doing this a long time. Have you seen a shift in, let's say, how fast people change, the way people are changing? You know, we can't. I mean, you and I both understand what's going on a larger scale, not just here on Earth, but in the multiverse, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of shifts and changes, and you know, even me as a coach it's been about 9 years now. I feel like I've noticed a difference, and I'm like, is that me? Is that just the world we're in? Is that the kind of people I'm attracting? I'm curious to know, like, what have you seen trend-wise from when you began doing this to where we're at now? And then maybe what's your prediction for how this is all going to help us in the future? Or
Sure.
If there is a future.
There is a future. There is a future. A world may be ending, but the world is not ending.
Yeah, exactly.
So where was I going to start? So, I moved out to the West Coast. When I moved, I said anywhere between San Francisco and Seattle because I knew it had a more progressive energy. And no, this is no disrespect to any place else in the country, but I grew up on the East Coast. I lived on the East Coast. I've lived in the Midwest. I've lived in Europe. And the West Coast from San Francisco and Seattle was the best fit for me. And I was teaching at a place that was operating at a different level from where most people operate. And that's not to say a better level, just a different level. And then I started to get asked to go to places and teach my money workshop, really traditional places like Zurich and Singapore and Hong Kong and Taipei, not places known as like, New Age thought, right? And so what I noticed is over the couple years I was doing that, I noticed this like trajectory like this of this shift towards like interest in the spiritual stuff and something really different, something more satisfying and soul satisfying, and it got so like it started like this and then it was like this and then I noticed it was doing sort of this, and I was giving an interview kind of like this in February. I think it was February of 2020, and I said the acceleration of growth is off the charts. I said it is, and it's not slowing down. And I said, and on the surface everything looks the same. I said this cannot continue. Something's got to give. And within 2 weeks, COVID shut everything down, and we had gotten COVID like before it was famous. We got it summer of 2019 in Australia. I had never had the flu. Actually, I'd never had the flu. It was only a day and a half, and I had a fever, and I only get a fever when I need an identity update. And I had a fever, and I did have a huge internal expansion over the next year. Well, it's still going on. But anyway, so when everything shut down and it was this, virus that caused fevers, I was like, and everybody had to stop. All momentum stopped. And when it started up again, there was not, like overcoming the law of inertia, the stuff that really wasn't working for people. It's like they couldn't, like a lot of people stopped, like I'm not commuting anymore, or I don't want to do this job anymore. And I'm like, yeah, all the old momentum had to stop. And then the only thing there was enough energy to start up was stuff there was still actual genuine energy for. Plus a lot of people got, huge identity updates. Some people made such a big identity update, they left the planet, right? Although not that many more than in a typical flu year. Because I looked up the statistics when it started. Every year, somewhere between 400,000 to 600,000 people die of the flu. And during COVID, I think it was a little over 600,000, but there were no reported flu deaths. Yeah. So
we could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, right. And we don't need to, but I looked at it and I'm like, wow, everything came to a halt. All momentum stopped. And now we get a big choice. Everybody got a chance to have a big think. And so I think we're going to be seeing the fallout for a little while still of a huge remodel of consciousness. And anybody who's ever remodeled anything in your home knows that from almost the day you start till almost the day it ends, it's utter chaos and you wish you'd never been born. And then you have something new and beautiful. And so we're in the utter chaos part where many people are wishing they'd never been born. But it is, not everybody's going to change at the same rate. And it's been changing. A lot of what we're seeing that change is inherently scary to the nervous system. This is why so many of the tools we teach people in NLP first is how to make people feel safe while you're doing the change so it doesn't spook the horses, basically. And so there has been so much change so fast that in the collective, there's just a collective freak out about change. And that's why you've seen so much of a push to try and undo change, to try and roll it back, which won't work, not permanently. There may be temporary, just because it's terrifying. And that's part of the dynamic that is going to be shifting, is shifting from a fear-based worldview to a love and possibility base. And it's started in pockets. It has already started. Like, we've hit the point of, in my experience, we've hit the point of no return where the shift is coming. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and not everybody's going to go at once. But there are already pockets of people who have found each other who are just creating like miracles, right and left. And that's where we're headed. So that's what keeps me happy.
You do. It's very funny because, and I shouldn't say, oh, it's just like the people I hang out with or the community I'm in, but I feel like I maybe it's because I've been in this kind of world for a while now and connected with people all over, but I completely feel like I live in a new earth. I mean, not all the time because I'm still sucked back into the old ways, but generally on a vibrational level and what I've witnessed in not only my life, but other people around me and even, clients or just communities that I'm connected to, it's like, wow. And some of it happening very easily and effortlessly. And I mean, I had a friend speak something into reality and it came through within like 6 months and it was huge. It was a huge amount of money and a huge project that like none of us could have believed that she by herself would just, and it was like, it just landed in her lap.
Yeah.
And it was so oddly quick. And it was this huge, beautiful temple on this mountaintop on our land in Costa Rica. And she didn't pay for any of it, and it was like, how did that happen within a year? And like to the details, and things like that I've just been seeing more and more, like just magic, and the one thing at least with my life, especially since doing all the work with you and, just in general, like work on, and especially in this realm of not just money, but worthiness, abundance, scarcity programming, fear-based programming. Sometimes it's like, I'm used to it now, but it used to feel almost like it was too much. It was like too intense. Like, oh my God, this is a lot for my nervous system to hold all this greatness. Yeah. Do you find that that's also a problem too? Like, and especially as we're entering into kind of this new shift in the world, like, are there going to be people that are like, I can't even handle this because it's too good?
Probably. And a lot of the work right now is helping people's nervous system to first come out of trauma and fear, and then to be able to experience being safe while different and better things happen. Because the parts of us that feel safe is very simple neurology. And so it's like whatever it already knows feels safer than what it doesn't know, even if what it doesn't know is way better. It doesn't imagine the way this part of the brain does. So yeah, that's why some of the techniques or tools that we use are designed to help that part of the nervous system virtually experience something and not die, like experience something better and start to get kind of like, okay, that might be survivable. That might be okay. Right. And kind of ease it into it. Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that fascinating, right? It's like, yeah. I mean, I've gone through it myself multiple times at these points in my life. And I felt some aspect of it recently where it's like this feeling of, oh, maybe I am going to die because things are going so well. It's such a weird feeling and it makes no sense.
It's a common belief. Yeah. That's a nervous system kind of response.
Yeah. Thankfully, I have the tools where I'm like, okay, I know how to ease into it. But many, many years ago when I first started like consciously experiencing that, I was like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? You know, like such deep programming to think that we can't just easily have goodness because it might mean that we're going to die. I mean, that seems really, talk about trauma.
Yeah. Or unuseful beliefs. Yes.
Yeah. I'm curious, what are your views? Because I've actually had a lot of downloads, which I say kind of like as a psychedelic meme, come through over the years about money and the future of what money is on Earth and what it looks like, whether it's in our lifetime, I don't know, or maybe, I mean, I think, you know, at least a few generations from now, it'll be completely different. But have you ever had any downloads about like what might happen in the next like 10 or 20 years or even 5 years, you know, like with what we call money now? I mean, do you believe that it's going to completely change in paradigm and not just, you know, there's an awareness that we have now, like, you know, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, and maybe that's coming in. But a lot of that is actually kind of getting wrapped up in the old system as it is. So, you know, there's that. But yeah, have you had any downloads about what the future of money looks like?
No, the clearest downloads I've had is that the pure essence of money, when we take away the projections that everybody puts onto it, the energy of money is the energy of blessings. Anything else is projections and fears that we put onto it. So that energy of blessings will continue. How we operationalize it, that I don't know yet. But I do know that there's not a fixed sum of money available. It's not a zero sum. And so we operate as though it is a zero sum, as though there's only so much and whatever one person has takes away from others. And that is actually not true. So it'll be interesting to see what life looks like when it becomes evident that it's not a zero sum. That it's basically a hallucination of value and there are no limits on value. So that'll be fun to watch.
Hallucination of value. Yeah, because it's not, you know, it's just this item that we've projected meaning onto, like in pretty much everything else in the world, right? But you know, and then a lot of the spiritual community throws around like money is just energy, you know, and I think it is, because everything is, right? But then to take it to this deeper level, I mean, I've said that I have this chart or this infographic on my website about how clients, like, you know, because I'm a business coach, but like the money piece is at the heart chakra, you know, because there's it's kind of like the same opening of all the chakras to be in this kind of spiritual oneness. It's like, you know, well, if you apply that to business, the money lands right there in the heart, you know? But yeah, have you ever wondered about, let's say, like the Elon Musks of the world, which, you know, I'm sure people are rolling their eyes because people don't seem to like him, but he's a great example, right? Like, I don't actually know his net worth off the top of my head, but, you know, world's richest man. What are they, like, what is it? You think he just doesn't have any limiting beliefs, or like, what was it? I mean, yeah, he did work hard, but I don't think it's that either.
I don't think it's that he doesn't have limiting beliefs. I think he does. I think they're a different kind of belief. I don't know enough about him to speak usefully. I think he does have a belief that if he were in charge, things would run better. That he knows better. And a common belief around people who hoard or accumulate way more money than they would technically ever need is this kind of fear of never having quite enough, either power, influence, control, whatever it is. It's like this fear of not having enough that will often drive that. They don't necessarily have a sense of enough or a sense of safety. I don't know him well enough, but I do get a sense of, I think he thinks he's doing a good thing, but that he thinks he needs to be in control and he's going to do it. And therein lies some of the problem, or the heart of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of this godlike drive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
No.
yeah.
Deeper than that?
No. A kind of an Old Testament godlike drive.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, really interesting. No, I've used this example. I have one good friend who's a billionaire, just one that I know of. Maybe more out there, who knows? But and I asked him many years ago, like, well, what was different? And he just said, when he was a young kid, and this is how his brain has always functioned, his mind, anytime something would bother him or he'd have a doubt or something didn't go as he wanted, he said he would take it and like crumple it up and like throw it back out to the universe. Just process through things very quickly. I think he also has a little form of like maybe an Asperger's kind of mind, but
yeah.
He doesn't seem to be, I've never witnessed limiting beliefs when it comes to money, wealth, creating multiple businesses, succeeding in the capitalistic success way. But I don't know.
Well, then there's the Taylor Swift model for a billionaire, which is a different model.
What's her model? Just sing and have fun?
Well,
I mean,
she does still do the work hard thing, but she's, her drive doesn't seem to be about the accumulation of wealth.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, because she could have stopped a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. And she's continually, giving huge bonuses, raises. She did, when she was in the UK for her tour, she did more for the food banks in the UK than the UK government had in the last 19 years.
Oh my God. Wow.
So, there was another thing. She just donated a huge chunk of money to something else, for the homeless. And I think she even said, I saw her say in an interview, what is the money for if I can't pay my band well, if I can't help people, what's it good for? Not that she doesn't have nice things, but it's a different model. And I tell you, I was lucky enough to go to the Eras Tour last year, and I needed it because it was a rough year. There was a lot of things happening outside of my control with my partner and my mother dying, and all in about a month. And I went to New Orleans, and New Orleans is no stranger to events. They have Super Bowls, Olympics, they have all kinds of stuff happening there. But I asked people who lived there, how is this for you? They said, we've never seen anything like this. And it felt so safe. The whole city, even Bourbon Street, felt downright wholesome. And it was amazing. I had never experienced anything like it. Never have felt so safe wandering around at 1 a.m. in a strange city. Wow. And everybody there said the same, including the residents. Wow. And I read other cities that she visited that same thing happened. And some of that was from her, and some of that was from the people that would come in. But they're connected. There's a connection. There's a flow of love between her and them that you could feel. It was astonishing. I never experienced anything like it. I don't know that there will be again, but it was like that. She did that in 149 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's how Burning Man used to be. I wouldn't say it's like that anymore, but it used to feel that way, where it was like 70,000 people coming together for 1 week with the hearts open, I mean, maybe not all, but like just all the masks come off, like really just coming into this place of intentional love and care and beauty. And I'm telling you, the energy, some of the things I've witnessed there, talk about manifestational power. Holy crap. It's wild.
Yeah.
I think it's changed, but what I used to experience there, it was that same feeling where it's like, well, wait a second, if we're able to do this for a Taylor Swift concert or 1 week at Burning Man, couldn't we do this together as a human race on Earth?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what's coming.
I hope.
I believe it is coming. It's just a question of when and by what degrees. But yeah.
And what does it take, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I can't wait to read the new version of your book coming out and addresses some of this, right? I think, right? Yeah. Great.
Well, it's kind of an intro for a lot of people, so I don't go into the deep woo-woo. But I do talk about the effect that it has, when one person makes their life freer and safer and happier, it affects the whole collective. And it doesn't take that much for the whole thing to start to shift. It doesn't take 50%. It's a much smaller percentage that needs to come into coherence for the whole thing to be different. Yeah.
Well, let's hear about, you have Paris coming up and then some other things in Europe and then the book coming out. And then I think you do Money Magic again you usually do it in the winter.
I usually do, but because I'm doing a class for the Shift Network, they asked me to do one for them, a money class for them. So I'm going to do that. And I don't want to be competing against my own class. So I'm going to do for the Shift Network starting. Wow. It starts in February, I think. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us about Paris and what's coming up there.
Yeah, the Paris Heart Reset. What I did is I have a workshop that's been incredibly popular. Originally it was focused just on relationship, but I'm calling it the Paris Heart Reset. It was originally a 2-day format, and what I've done is I've spread it into 4 days that are shorter days in Paris. So there's more time for integration. There's time for Paris. But there's a lot of family constellation work to look at the real blocks to feeling our worth and the blocks to connection and love and the family and inherited relationship patterns, all of which affects not just our relationships, but our money as well, especially people who are their own product, like coaches or speakers. Our relationship to ourselves, we take into is what we present to people. So if we can't see us or we're afraid that we're not enough, like it affects our entire business, right? And so it's about this deep kind of clearing up of very, very primal old blocks to love and connection and our feeling of self-worth. And every time I do that workshop, every time I wish we had taken pictures before and that we take them after, because the changes are so huge. Yeah.
Physical changes in people.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And so that's in Paris, October 21st through 24th in the 6th arrondissement. And then I'm going to do my Money Magic workshop in London, November 1st and 2nd. And I was asked to do it at this private club for artists and musicians called the House of Cocoa. So they'll be inviting their people. I'll be inviting, my audience to sign up for it. And it's 2 days of this work. It's the original workshop that I created, but it's evolved over the years to clear up all the different blocks around money and self-worth and old beliefs and stuff. And it comes at it from a couple of different ways. I know you've done the online version. And this is the 2-day in person, and doing it at this magical place. It was designed to be like a wonderland. Like you never know what's behind that door or that curtain. Is this whole building has got like 7 different cabarets and venues in it, and and they are as excited about me coming there as I am about coming there. So it just feels like this is. And I may be doing a workshop at a place in Lisbon at some point called the Ministry of Magic.
What?
It's called the Ministry of
Wow.
Magic, and I may get to do one of my workshops there. So
Ooh.
this is the kind of thing, like I wanted my work to be more fun and magical, and these things, they came and found me and said, would you like to do this? And I'm like, yes, I would. Thank you. Yes, I would.
Did you do your own work, your own like NLP type work to create that, to make that happen in your reality?
I've done enough work over the years that at this point, when I get clear that I want something, I'm like, you know what? I want something that feels as much fun. It feels fun to do and exciting, in addition to transformative. And this is what has shown up already. Yeah.
You just decide and you have it.
Yeah. If there's nothing in the way and you're clear you want it and you're clear what it is, the universe will like bushwhack to get it to you. If that doesn't happen, there's stuff in the way. Either that or it's not the right time. And half the time it's not the right time because there's stuff in the way.
Oh, the timing thing. I'm like, time, but if time is all now.
Yeah, timing is actually more about alignment, when you're in alignment with whatever's you're wanting.
Oh my God, I'm so tempted to kind of detour one of my trips and stop through, but I know one of these days I'll do an in-person. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, Michelle, we're going to actually, we're going to have the links to all these events in the show notes. And, I know there's European listeners, so hey, actually, you know what? I have a European client that I might try to send there. That would be really amazing. Michelle, it was so good to have you here. I could totally jam with you a lot more. And please, when you do your follow-up book for Sounds True, go deep into the woo, because,
Okay.
I'm like, your readers can handle it, but next book.
Yeah, next book.
Thank you so much for your time. So good to have you.
So much love to you, Beth. Bye-bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.